Rope, Plant Marcus. How's your trades going?
Spectacular. I'm underwater probably 85%, but it's fine.
By the top, by the top.
I bought all the tops.
Me too.
Damn near got on zero at 60 something.
Oh, you almost laser thing almost.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I didn't really have much bills at that time, so I was just like had extra money. I was like, it's gonna keep going. YOLO.
Yeah, that's what isn't that what Opti says? I got on zero, but I didn't do it on purpose. Right?
Something like that. Yeah.
I think that's where I am.
Was that when you came in, Rope? Was that like your biggest buy up there? Or were you stacking from before?
Yeah, that was probably my biggest buy at the time. No, I don't know. Right around the first top at like 64K is right when I started like getting into the space, and so I also had like my little basket of like shit coins and stuff, and was just thinking I'll get more bang for my buck right here. I can have like whatever amount of insert token here, and all I could look at was like 0.001 of Bitcoin, and I'd put like $300 in it or something or whatever it was. I was like, this doesn't even make any sense. Why am I buying this? And so, but then when it came back around to like 69K, like last November or whatever it was, like I was putting in pretty big buys right there, thinking it was like going to like 120 in a month or something. So, yeah.
That's what everyone was telling us, and that's what we were telling everybody. Oh, this ain't stopping.
Yeah.
But something weird happened, because most of the people who bought up there are gone now, and you're still here. So
I'm not going nowhere.
So you're the Pubby of this cycle.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Lord Huddle, yeah.
We can't wait for your spaces. Toxic Happy Hour Junior coming out.
Okay.
No, Pubby is famous. Do you know who Pubby is, right?
I know of him. I've talked to him a couple times on Spaces, but I don't know.
Pubby's famous for buying in December of 2017 and for telling the story about how he bought the top. His first buys were buying the top, and then instead of selling, he just DCA'd all the way down, bought all the way down, all the way through
all the way down to 3,000.
Yeah, all the way down to 3,000 in 2018, and then just kept buying and is still buying. So
I can relate.
That's legendary. Honestly, it's legendary.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, except it was 60K all the way down to I guess 20, and then back up, and then back down.
Yeah, the double top. Okay, well, before we get into it, thanks everybody for coming in here. This is Bitcoiner's Guide, the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We're your host, Big Sean Harrison, Plan Marcus. Today we got a special guest, Ropium. He goes by Ropium on Twitter. Mr. Rope in the building. Just want to do a little quick timestamp and price stamp. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 5:14 p.m. in the Mountain Standard Time. And the price of Bitcoin is currently $19,500 and some change, up about 2% in the last 24 hours. So Bitcoin is doing its thing like always, like we always say. We got a fun show today. Rope is in the building. We think we're going to call this either Rope's sophomore year exam or Rope's sophomore syllabus. I think I like the sophomore syllabus better because it's got a little alliteration to it. So
I like it.
Rope, man.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, for like sophomore, what is it, like high school? What is like
college?
It's both of these dates. Yeah, I mean, I used both for high school, and I didn't go to college, but it's same meaning. Second year.
That's what makes it sophomore. See, us Europeans don't know that stuff. We don't use that term. But anyway, as a sophomore, so it kind of has this ring to it, as if it's like as if you're like new or something. But you've become like a pretty legendary memer in like short space of time. I even saw you get tagged or mentioned by Sailor this past week or in the last 2 weeks. What was it? How did that go about?
Really shout out to Rusty on that one. So like we were talking about before we started recording, like if you take too much time on a meme, it's most likely not gonna go off. And so I found this meme of like the little death with his hood off with a cup of coffee, like stressing. And I was like, if I just put that underneath the door memes and then make all the door, it literally took me 10 minutes. I made it on a Thursday night and I didn't post it because I've like, sometimes you doubt yourself, which you shouldn't do. I was like, yeah, it's kind of dumb. And then Friday, I'm sitting at work about to get off. I was just like, threw it out. Didn't even want to put a caption on it. Just stamped it Bitcoin, hashtag Bitcoin. And it just took off. Within like 30 minutes, I had like 300 likes. I was like, oh, wow, this is going to go off. And
oh, yeah.
And then Rusty, everybody started having fun with it, like remixing it and doing stuff with it. And Rusty, with his like artistic stuff, he goes crazy with his stuff, really super talented. He made a GIF out of it. And then I guess somehow him and Sailor were talking and Sailor wanted to post it, and credit to Rusty for saying, all right, yeah, but give him and me credit for it. And that's how it went about. It's very humbling. It was my boss at my desk job is a super like Sailor and Maller's fan, and like I ran into his office and like showed him my phone. He's like, "That's not real." I was like, "No, it's real." He's like, "No, it's not." I was like, "Open your phone, pull your Twitter out."
That's epic, man. Yeah, once Sailor like tags you, that's like the rest in peace your notification.
Yeah, it was over with. I think I got like 500 followers that day. It was they were kind of going up.
Awesome.
Follower count is burning right now.
It's going up, yeah.
Hey, and like, were you a memer before, or were you like, how do you go about meming? Like, were you used to like making videos or clips or playing around with that kind of stuff?
No, man, never. I've always kind
of your class of 21, right?
Correct, yes, sir.
That's 21.
Yeah. No, I've never I've made like shitty like little memes to like share on like Facebook like IRL friends, but never like really put any. It was just like they were shit, to be honest with you. But no, I've always been considered kind of like quick-witted, kind of funny guy in my like friend groups or whatever, and it was really just wanting to like find a place to like fit in here, because when I got here, I could see, scrolling newsfeed, like, Meme Factory and like Meme Tards, and they're like, y'all are all like just having like the best time. I could tell like there was all these inside jokes, and I just wanted to be a part of that somehow, and just didn't know how to do it. But I've always wanted to kind of meme, but I never really thought I could. I didn't know how to do it necessarily. And then I guess the story I've told is like after watching the meme panel at the most recent Miami conference, this guy right here, shout out to Big Sean,
Let's go.
wasn't even supposed to be on the stage. Was the last person to talk on the stage. It was like, just do it, just make one. And I think that combined with like watching Maller's presentation, like probably like legitly like 4 times, I was just feeling so bullish on the whole vibe. It was just, I was like, F it, I'm just gonna do it. And I just started putting out some memes. And then I think Labra slid into my DMs first and was like, yo, these are fire, keep going. I was like, okay, wow. Because like in my head, I was like, if they like them, they like them. And if they don't, I'll just blame Sean if I suck, because he told me to do it. Started putting this stuff out and people liked them. And, it's humbling when like Greg, starts messaging. It's like, hey man, you're doing great. Come to this group chat. And then you start getting added to all these group chats. And that's been the biggest blessing for me, to be honest, like just to find a spot in the space, and where I could just go and, it's funny because the best memes sometimes don't even get posted. It's just
right?
Us in the group chat, just like shitting on each other, just like cracking jokes, and just like the stupidest stuff possible, but it's funny because it just is. And it's I did not see my year going like this at all, and I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Hey, those chats are fun, especially with you and so kind of going back, like, how did you? So I'm kind of interested, right? Because like I kind of found Bitcoin in 2017. I didn't start buying until 2019. I'm class of 2019. I was watching for like 2 years, and then I eventually just got orange pilled. But you know, class of 2021, like what got you to finally pull the trigger on buying Bitcoin? And like, how did you end up seeing Bitcoin? Like, how does someone find out about Bitcoin nowadays? You know,
and what kind of work were you doing? Because I have this theory, like people who are like more of like engineering or
he always says
good
that,
in math or good in math and stuff.
he always says that I'm a basketball player. He always says that. It's like, he's like, yeah, engineers find it, but not, you know, not the basketball players.
When I say I hate math, I mean I hate it. Like that was always my worst subject. My subjects were always history, a little bit of science, and then I played sports. But I was always like a history guy. And like I guess to kind of like give a little bit of a foundation. I can remember reading a lot about, you know, the Weimar Republic as a kid, like anything history, like I'm obsessed with it. I love to hear about, you know what I mean? And I remember my mom telling me about people taking wheelchairs full of money to go buy a loaf of bread. And I was just like that. It didn't make sense to me. Obviously I was a kid, but I was always good in like economics classes. I understood it fairly well. And then I guess it was around like 2009 or 10. I don't know if anybody remembers this documentary, but shout out to Greg because he absolutely ratioed this guy on Twitter who made it. Peter Joseph, the Zeitgeist movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bro, I watched that documentary probably like 4 or 5 times. The first part of that movie I don't really subscribe to anymore. But the middle two, you know, talking about 9/11 and then the banking system, like it really like got to me when I was, you know, young, you know, 2009, 2010. And ever since then, like it's always been in the back of my head that, you know, this whole shit's broken and none of this is going to get fixed until but I didn't have the answer.
Yeah.
And when I found Bitcoin, I didn't know that was the answer at first. I found Bitcoin because I was freshly sober, had some money in my account, and I was like watching like the meme stocks go crazy and shit. And I was like, well, I want to get in on this. I've never bought stocks before, but I want to do it. And I was, you know, floating around on Reddit and stuff. And somehow I came across the Bitcoin Reddit and still didn't understand it or whatever. But when I was trying to sell my GameStop on Robinhood and they wouldn't let me, I was like, what am I doing this for? This is all broken anyway. This is never gonna work. This is stupid.
I remember that.
Yeah, you play. Yeah.
Right.
You try, even if you win, you lose, right? Like
exactly.
They could change the rules at the last second of the game and make you lose, just like
They
that.
removed. Didn't they remove like the buy button and only left like the sell button?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it was the other way around. They wouldn't let you sell because it was going up and they didn't want to cash you out.
No, they didn't. It was I literally just watched this special on Netflix came out with a thing about GME. They took away.
Oh, you're right.
They took away the buy button, but we take away the buy button means that there's no buyers. So there's only sell. So the price can only go down. Right. And at that time, people were saying, "Oh, you gotta hold on." You know, we're gonna keep aping in and all this stuff. But if all there is a sell button, like logically, the price can only go down.
Right. No, you're right. So that started to happen. And then I started coming across, you know, like I said, Bitcoin and crypto. And you know, in my head, I was like, this is better because it's unregulated and, you know, they can't really do nothing with it when like, really it's basically the same thing. They're both casinos as far as like crypto and the stock market. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's the debates to be made that I've, you know, talked with myself, like which one's more fair and open. In the end, it's all controlled by the same groups. I think we'd all agree there, you know. And like I said earlier, like the price of Bitcoin kind of turned me off. How am I supposed to? I was trying to get rich quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, you know, a little bit about myself, like I'm living. I'm 2 years sober. I'm still living in like a roommate situation, trying to get a spot for me and my girl. I was looking for a shortcut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had my little basket of shit coins. I got really big on XRP. I think I YOLO'd like 2,500 into XRP when it was like, I don't know, $2 near the top. Yeah, near the top. I don't remember that much. And I was watched that go down, and it was that summer of 2021, and I was still, I can't remember exactly what it was I read. I think it might have been some of Satoshi's like original like message board posts.
Yeah.
And when he was talking about the central bank, when I started reading that, like it all instantly clicked for me. Like this was the answer that I wish I would have known about after, learning about how broken the banking system was and how it's all controlled by this offshore cartel of foreign interests. And, they don't care about us. They just want to protect their monopoly on the printing press, and that, an infinite amount of cash is just another word for a worthless amount of cash. If there's an infinite amount of money at the Federal Reserve, that's just another word for worthless. Scarcity determines value often, not always, but often.
Yes.
And once that clicked for me, I was like, this is it. I sold all my shit coins at a loss, put everything into Bitcoin, watched it go down some more.
Were you on Bitcoin Twitter at this time?
I was surfing a little bit. I hadn't.
How did you find Bitcoin Twitter? Do you remember that? Like, if you were on Reddit, did you make your?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because you said you went into XRP first. So what made you go into XRP as well?
Dude, XRP.
Strictly the price. Me not understanding really like market caps or anything. Just like I just like, if this goes to $10, I'll have an extra 4,000 or 5,000. I can get out of here and get myself, my little girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Strictly just the price. I didn't realize that it had been around for 13 years and it's still at $1 or whatever.
Or that there's like billions of tokens, right? It's not like there's 21 billion. So like to get to that price, the market cap has to be insane. People they just look at what is the price of one XRP. They don't look at the market, what the market cap actually has to do.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I've had a Twitter account since probably like 2010 or 11. Like I can't remember, but I've had one since early on. But I've never used it. Just like used it to look for like gaming deals or like tweet at certain celebrities or like Alabama football. Obviously, I'm from Alabama, so I love my football down here. But I've never really used it. And getting sober this last time, I made a lot of changes in my personal life. Willingly and unwillingly, a lot of people, I've done a lot of dumb stuff in my life. So, I've always more or less been a loner since I got out of school, and either through necessity or just, being forced. Anyways, so I just started like looking on Twitter, looking for, GameStop stuff, and then, XRP stuff. And I think I came across Kaz. BTC Kaz was the first one I came across, and like the stuff he was tweeting about, stuff that I've always kind of like low-key been obsessed with, particularly in my younger years, conspiracy stuff, quote unquote tinfoil hat stuff, stuff that I've always been interested in and learned about, but I never did nothing with that knowledge other than like probably make myself look stupid to people in real life, you know what I mean? Make them look at me crazy. So I clicked on follow him, and then just clicked the, sometimes when you click follow, you get follow these accounts, they work well with them. So I clicked that and just started like mass following a bunch of people that interacted with him. And that's how I kind of like slowly started like getting into Bitcoin Twitter. And at this time, I'm still thinking like Dan Held, Anthony Pompliano, fucking Will Clemente,
right.
I'm thinking all these guys are like the signal, you know what I mean? And like to Pomp and like Will's like credit though, I will give them some credit. Like when we dumped after I like YOLO'd in, like
in a sense they are, right?
Yeah.
They kind of their hopium that summer did kind of like keep me like grounded. Like it's gonna go back up. And when it came back around in November and it started going back up, I was like, yeah, they're right or whatever. But now I kind of like understand why they're douchebags. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into Twitter and stuff. And it was just seeing how all y'all like interact with each other, like the actual plebs, like the quote unquote underground, whatever. Man, I didn't even know Simply Bitcoin existed until April. For real. But so yeah, just
I mean, that's how it goes, right? It takes time to find the signal in Bitcoin, to find a true signal. And the best part is you think, like, when you think that you found signal, then you got to keep asking yourself, well, I thought I found signal before. So is this really true signal, or is this more noise, or is it a mix of both? I think what ends up happening a lot of time is you get enough time in Bitcoin that you start to make your own opinions and form your own opinions. And it's the whole thing of not having heroes, right? I think it's so important to not have heroes in Bitcoin, that you honestly have to become your own hero. Like, we really are bringing back personal accountability with your finances. You hold your own keys. So you have to be, there's no one that's going to save you. Like, you have to do the work. Like, Satoshi gave us his gift. Now it's up to us to use that gift. And if we don't, then someone else can take it from us,
100%. Yeah. Very important stuff. Yeah.
Have you gone down that far? Like, are you running on a node? Are you still using Coinbase, or what's going on there?
I strictly use Strike to buy. I do have a hardware wallet. I have not got a node yet, so I am LARPing just a smidge. But it's mainly just because of my living situation. I'm using that as it's an excuse. It's not a very good one, but my living situation is kind of weird right now. But once I get my own spot, I'm definitely planning on getting a node and some miners as well. Hopefully near the bottom where they're super cheap.
Yeah. You should hit up Pedro about a node, dude.
He's reached out to me. Shout out to him. Yeah, he told me anytime I need some help, to holler at him. And then I've met a couple of not met, but like interacted with a couple of plebs online up in Huntsville that said they'd help me out. And then I've just recently, we finally got a meet up in Birmingham right around the corner from me that I'm gonna be going to once a month. Went to my first one a few weeks ago, and there's some guys there that know what they're doing, and they're gonna help me out with it when I get to that point. Met a professional soccer player down here that plays for our local team, Alex.
Oh yeah,
he's a cool guy, and very excited. I think we're gonna work on some farmers markets, getting them orange peeled and stuff.
The grassroots movement. I like it.
Yeah. That's what my friends out in like Arizona and California, like all the plebs I talked to out there, they're like, that's probably the best place to start, because usually they're based, they don't, they're already probably turned off with the whole, nation state situation, the two-party system. It's just getting them to understand that none of this shit's gonna get fixed until the money gets fixed. It's just it's as cliche as it might be, it's just that's the simple truth of the matter.
Oh yeah. So has any?
I wish.
Oh, go ahead.
Mark. I wish it was. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I wish it was already a cliche. Maybe it's a cliche in the Bitcoin Twitter space, but I'm hoping it can become a real cliche out in in mainstream.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's interesting because I think about it's fun talking to you about like when you kind of got orange pilled, because it makes me think about when I got orange pilled and those, like, what people were talking about back in those days. Like in 2017, there was all this like ICO stuff was going crazy. There's these crypto kitties, which to me is like a precursor of the NFTs, and so, but you are starting sophomore year, syllabus. We're giving out the syllabus right now. Have things changed? Like, have narratives changed from when you first started into Bitcoin to now? Like, are things any different now that you look back on and you're like, okay, when I first got orange pilled, I kind of got orange pilled, right? Some people, when they got orange pilled, is because stock to flow. And you think about that and you go, okay, they were looking at plan B, stock to flow, and they get orange pilled and then it doesn't even get close to 100,000. So then some people are like, well, it's all this is broken because the stock to flow is broken, right? And then they sell their Bitcoin or whatever. And I think the big thing is to get orange pilled on actual truth. Are there any things that you got orange pilled on that you're like, wow, I can't believe that was a narrative and now it's not anymore?
Definitely the stock to flow thing for sure. I mean, that's what I used to like get my sister off zero. And she's still holding, but like, I was really like, cramming the hopium down her throat, like showing her the charts, like he's got this month right, and then this month, and we're gonna go here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was trying to get her to go harder, and she was like, "No, I'm just gonna do $20 a week." I was like, "You're an idiot." But yeah, definitely something like that for sure. I think one of the biggest things for like, as far as like furthering like my conviction in the orange pill thing, and especially like showing me what Bitcoin's, why it was created or discovered or whatever, was definitely when Mallers was given the El Salvador presentation, and seeing that was, I didn't get it at the time why everybody was so like, while the room went wild that it was going to be like able to be used as currency, but like that did a lot for me. That's been the narrative, that's done the most for me, and obviously that hasn't changed. Separating money and state, and that's really what I try to use now. I mean, like, Sean, you follow me on Instagram, and you'll see I go through, I wax and wane, but that's, if it's not my little kid on my story or whatever, it's expressly trying to get the people I went to school with, the people that I know in real life or I work with, when they see my story, I want them to see why it's so crucial that we, separate the money and, the creation of money from the state. It's, it's literally no different, and it's more important in a lot of ways than separating religion and state. It's the same thing, really. I mean, the money creation is just a religion. They're the cult. They're in a temple over there determining what the price of money is, and it's just,
Well, yeah,
That's sad, man.
yeah. Well, that's Evan. Like, why is it? What is so wrong about having, Robert Breedlove would call them masters of money, right? Or like, why would it? What's like so wrong about having the state and the money connected, or about having this group of like a higher class that has control over the money? What is like so wrong about it? As someone who's just learning about Bitcoin, or who even has studied Bitcoin for a while and wants a refresher, like, what's so wrong about the way that current system is?
I mean, because at the end of the day, we're all imperfect creatures. We all have the capacity to do evil, and we all have the capacity to do good.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of us have the moral fiber and the integrity to only do good. In fact, the number is probably, I don't know, I wouldn't say that. It's actually kind of large, I would think. But the people that want that kind of, power are usually very fallible, and why is it right that I have to wake up at 5 a.m., go work 2 jobs, working for money that, Francis Richard III is creating for free and getting to like line his pockets with it? Why is that fair? It's not. Like, anybody that can't see that, I mean, they're asleep in it, and my heart goes out to them, and I want to try to help them, but it's just, it's not fair. It's clearly not fair. And you don't even have to look in the United States, look in like Africa or, anywhere else where there's like immense human suffering, and it's all due to like economics and either foreign powers like China or whoever coming in there and, taking their stuff from them, or, it's just like that quote stuck with me really hard. If give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not what their troops does. Like that, it resonated so hard with me when I was probably like 18 or 19, even though I didn't really fully understand it. It just like, it's just my love for history it just stuck with me.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, right? Like the fact that the majority of the people we work, and I think this is what a lot of people don't realize, is they go, okay, well, what is the dollar backed by, right? Is what people say all the time. And then, some people say, oh, it's backed by, it used to be backed by gold, right? But the term backing actually meant you could go to the bank and you could take your note and swap it out. It was a swap that you could swap for that amount of, an ounce of gold. Your dollar note would swap out, or 35 would swap out for an ounce of gold. That's the actual back. That's why it was backed, because you could swap it. It was an exchange rate for it. And then and then there was the Executive Order 6102, which made it illegal for Americans to hold gold. And then all this stuff happened, right? And so then people say, well, it's backed by men with guns, is what I think Paul Krugman said, or something like that. It's backed by the United States Army or military, by force. But it's also backed by your everyday American citizens who are working to create value and who transfer value within the currency of the dollar. So I think that's what people don't realize, is there's some backing, because there's millions and millions of people that are working to get the dollar and to get paid in the dollar. And so when you think about that, there's millions of people working to get paid in this, but then there's people who are unelected officials who can print and double the supply of the money in under 2 years without having to put any work in, that they can just double the supply of money without doing any work. Then the backing, it loses its backing. It becomes a meme currency. It becomes fake. It becomes just paper. And fiat. So, yeah, it becomes fiat, right? Like it's literally fiat.
I remember like hearing that term in that documentary, like in 2009, fiat money, and like I would Google it, and what he was saying was true, but like it didn't. And fast forward to like 2021, now like fiat's like a mainstream word now.
Yeah,
like that kind of like happened from like overnight. Like it's like not even debatable anymore. Like people, like if they don't know it, then they're really honestly not paying attention. But it's just like it used to. I used to get called crazy for using that word, and now it's just like that was
it's
really like.
It's really funny, because I remember Seyfedin, and I believe it was the name is missing, but they were celebrating it when it was being used in mainstream on MSNBC. They were like, "Oh, listen to these guys! They're actually using the term fiat now." I love how like these terms from like Bitcoin Twitter like jump over to like mainstream, and right now, like you said it, fiat's not even. That's really a transformation I'm seeing in any case. If I look at like the way it's being, we really went from like a complete ignoring of Bitcoin and laughing at Bitcoin to now they're still trying to avoid Bitcoin, right? If you listen or read like the last what was it, the report from the BIS, but also the thing from the Fed that came out, they'll talk about digital assets and stuff, but they're avoiding Bitcoin like the plague. They're talking about stable coins, they're talking about DeFi. They won't mention Bitcoin. They're scared as hell of Bitcoin. It's so there's a lot of changes going on. It's very, very cool to see, for sure.
Yeah. So
agreed.
And maybe to add on the other thing, because you were mentioning, people are fallible and we all are capable of doing good and bad, but even if you're beyond the point that it's like so tempting to just, turn on a money printer, enrich your buddies, and, give out the contracts and control the flows of money and the demand, and you can do some insider trading on the back of it and whatnot. But even in a like a fair democracy or whatever, a good government kind of thing, it's so tempting to, what are you going to do? Austerity measures, because there's this deficit, right? We've got all this spending going on.
Impossible.
We need to fund our army. We need to fund healthcare. We need to fund infrastructure. We need to fund sports and all these other stuff that like an economy needs. But yeah, everybody, wants to win the next elections. And what's the easiest way? It's really hard to be like, okay, guys, we're going to have to, we're not going to be able to do this project, and we're not going to be able to do that because, we're going to have to, stay within our budget. While, I don't know, there's always money there. We can just print some extra money. It's like an extra tax on the people, and we don't even have to tell them that they're being taxed, So
as if the government
you're getting like diluted from all sides all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You made me just think of a meme right there, Marcus. I don't know if you've ever seen Arrested Development, but there's a saying that they say there's always money in the banana stand.
I don't know that one. Is that a saying?
It's in the show. It's in the show called Arrested Development. The family owns a banana stand, and so they always say, "Oh, there's always money in the banana stand." That's what like the dad of the family always says.
Oh, okay.
And so it makes me think of like that's what the Fed is saying, like, or what the politicians are saying. There's always money in the central bank, right? But until there's not.
Supposedly.
Until
I mean, it's just like they go on. Like the guy goes on TV. Like we've all seen the clip, and he's like, "There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve."
no cash card.
Infinite is literally just another word for worthless. Like
Yeah.
I don't. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why Bitcoin has no top, because there's an infinite amount of money.
Exactly.
Infinite
Absolutely.
amount of dollars.
So okay, Rob, when I first bought Bitcoin in 2019, there was a guy that was around named John McAfee, which I don't know if you've ever heard of him before.
McAfee, the guy that just
John McAfee, and he didn't. Who knows, right? Everyone's
right.
But he was saying that by the end of 2020, Bitcoin was gonna reach $1 million, or he's gonna, eat his dick on live television or something like that.
FOMO'd hard.
Yeah, and then there was all these other people giving out.
He also said that math itself would be broken if it
yes. So when you first get into Bitcoin, right, you get orange pilled, and then you realize, and then you're like, there's no top, right? It clicks one day, like there really is no top because everything's gonna be priced in Bitcoin. And then you think, I was sitting there in 2019 and I didn't have any friends to talk to. I wasn't on Bitcoin Twitter yet. Marcus heard this story a million times, right? I was just kind of hanging out by myself, buying Bitcoin, and I was totally convicted. And I was like, this thing is going to 1 million tomorrow. And then it didn't. And then it didn't, And so it showed me like I had to have a lot of patience, and there was a lot of drawdowns that I've already gone through, which even in 3 years, it hasn't been a long time, but it's still been a decent amount of time to see a ton of different things happen and play out. But one of the biggest lessons I got was sometimes when you first get to Bitcoin, you think like this thing's going to the moon immediately. And then you realize like there's so many people out there that just aren't paying attention to the signs that are happening about like if you were to ask any of your friends what's going on with the Bank of England right now, they would have no idea, right?
No idea. They don't care.
No. So have you seen yourself go from go do that as well, kind of hit this? And I don't know, maybe that was just me, or if that's a lot of Bitcoiners, of like you get this exuberance where you think there's never gonna be this is going up forever, and then you kind of realize it is going up forever, but it may take longer than what I originally thought. I don't know if
I mean, yeah, there's some parallels there. Like I was convinced it was going to 100K, by February or whatever. I was watching the stock to flow or whatever. But when that didn't happen, nothing really changed for me. In fact, like I'm so new, like I'm kind of happy it didn't.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking I was never gonna get 20K again. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm really like chilling. Now I understand like people that have been in the space for longer, especially if they still got a little bit of like a dollar mindset, and maybe they really need that, that cash to better themselves. I understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. But nothing really changed for me because it's not about, it's all about the mission. I mean, that what Bitcoin was created to do is really like, it gets me fired up, like truly. Because I try not to live with hate in my heart, but I hate central bankers, man. I hate the concept of a central bank, especially now when there's such a better alternative, like 1,000x better alternative. There's going to be a day when people are going to say, you used to give your money to a building, or you used to, you let somebody else keep control of your money, and it's going to be a wild notion. I truly believe this. So, I'm very happy to be able to stack in right now. I'm just trying to get to a whole coin because the bull market cannot continue until I get to a whole coin. That's
I
my
agree.
thing.
Oh, let's
Getting there,
go.
getting there, getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, Marcus had a meme in like the middle of the bull market of this guy like saying, you got to travel with Ant-Man to go back in time if you want that discount. And then now the discount's here.
Right. That's what I was telling some friends. Like, I was going hard at like 30 and 40K like this time last year, going hard at 50K. And if I wouldn't have, I don't regret it by any means, but if I would have kind of like, chilled and just DCA'd, $20, $30 a week, I could have probably bought the same amount that I have right now within the last 2 months, like, to be honest with you. Because I was like really like dumping in like 5, 6, like every other week with my checks and stuff, and like all that's like come back down. You know what I mean?
It's okay.
So I mean,
It-
it's fine. It's great. I'm not complaining, but
Yeah.
it's like I
It
use
does
it as
hurt.
like
It hurts. It hurts a little bit, but
a
it's
little bit, but I use it as a
it's
lesson,
learned.
like not to live in fear. You know what I mean? That was the lesson for me.
And you learn.
Trust me, you're not alone in that because you're new or whatever. Because I feel exactly the same way. If I look back at what I could have done at like 60K or 69K, right?
Yeah.
Could have more than doubled my stack and whatnot. But the thing is, you just never know when the top is, when the bottom is. All you know is there's this 21 million. It's got this long-term path ahead of it. You don't know it's going to go from bottom left to top right, but what it's going to do in between and when.
Yeah.
It's a guessing man's game. And once you start trying to time that stuff,
you're gonna go crazy.
I've lost some coin trying to do that stuff in the beginning as well. So I didn't bother anymore. And of course, there's always moments when you feel like, oh, I should have gone harder there. I knew it, but that's always in hindsight, man.
Yeah, hindsight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Marcus and I have had endless conversations about that too.
For sure.
Before the bull market hit and during the bull market, it's like, okay,
I remember as well, it was like getting people into Bitcoin. I remember telling myself and a good friend of mine in 2020, like, all right, all the way up until 50K, I'm going to tell people you should get into Bitcoin, right? Because I felt 50K was still like, it's probably never going to fall. It's probably never going to fall back below 50K again once it's probably going to go up to like 100, 150, maybe even 280, whatever Pubby was saying, maybe even 400, 600, telling you, I saw it all. And I figured, it's going to fall back to like 70K, and that's going to be like a bottom of the next cycle or whatnot. So, up until 50K, I feel pretty confident getting people into Bitcoin. And I got some really close friends, just like you, Rob. They got in, they went in hard at 60K. And luckily they're still holding, but of course they're also complaining, I wish I would have DCA'd, or if I would have just bought in now, I could have like twice as much Bitcoin. But what do you do? So it's not that hard to get people into Bitcoin, but keeping them in Bitcoin is very important as well, because if they sell now, that'd be really shitty.
Unfortunate. Yeah. I get a text from my sister every once in a while. I think I got one a few weeks ago. She's asking, like, is it, what's going on with this? I was just like, well, we're in the bear market, I assume. So just, turn your stack, your DCA on, and just don't look at it. I mean, I know she's got over 1 million sats, so she's gonna make it. She's not selling.
That's good.
It's the biggest mind. I don't want to swear on here. There is, because when we're down this low, like, I'm getting texts as well from people who are like eyeing it, and they're like, when is Bitcoin going to recover? When is Bitcoin ready to recover? I'm like, well, we're going to be pretty low now, but once we're going to be going to 100K, you're going to be wishing you bought a lot down here. They're like, we'll see. And it just reminds me of like 2020. I couldn't get people in 2019, when it was like at 6, 7K, people wouldn't buy it, and then once we hit 20K, then they all started lining up, it went up so fast, and at 30, 40K, they started buying hard, or they'd still be like, oh, but now it looks so bubbly. So it's like, people will always have a reason not to buy, So unless the best advice you could do is just tell them to study it, you know, and they're gonna have to get that conviction themselves, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've switched a little bit. I've learned a lot throughout this cycle as well. Not to, I don't know. And I also focus mostly just on like really close family and friends. You know, I really want them to get into the lifeboat and really understand that it's a lifeboat. But yeah,
It's I would say it's even more like an ark, like Noah's Ark, because
right.
like what are we doing right now when we're building our Bitcoin ark before the storm comes. And that's what we're doing. However much money you make, it doesn't matter. It's just if you can save some in Bitcoin and build your ark. And when the storm hits, it's gonna be rocky to start out with. It might go down, all this stuff might happen, but eventually you'll be floating on top. And I think that is like what people don't understand is like this is an ark prepared for the storm of all storms. So like that's what we're building right now.
It's the same as like, it's the same concept as like trying to explain somebody the printing press or the internet right when those two inventions were born. Like, what do you mean there's going to be 1,000 books of the same exact book and they're going to be everywhere? That's not real. That's not going to happen. Or what do you mean I'm going to be able to talk to somebody from, but it's not going to be happening. It's not going to, yeah, it's the same exact thing. But it's even on a bigger scale and it's involved with money and trying to talk money with people sometimes. It's not like trying to talk books, you know what I mean? It can pull out more emotions from either side. Money can be a very emotional topic, you know?
Yeah, it can be super emotional. And some people don't want to like let off that they know nothing about money, or other people that let it off that they know nothing about money, but then you start talking to them and it's like talking to a wall. Like they just give you that, that glaze where you're like, okay, you're not listening to the word I'm saying. So let's change the topic, you know, it's always hard talking to people about money. If you, and especially when you're just trying to figure out what do they know, that's like the hardest. That when you first talk to people about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Marcus and I are doing something new on Bitcoiners Guide, and you're the first to experience this. We're doing 3 final questions. So Marcus, do you have them, or you want me to? I can start them off, or
you start them off, Sean. Okay. I know you've got the notes right there.
Yeah. I got Artie's notes up.
I thought you already asked one of them actually.
I did kind of ask one, and I realized that I didn't realize. But we'll ask it again. Right. So this is the first question. I think this was the first question. What did you read or listen to, or like when did you finally understand? Like what made you swallow the orange pill? Like when did it just click? And I think you've already talked about it a little bit, but what like really made it click to swallow orange pill?
Probably the El Salvador business, especially Jack's speech on that stage, realizing why they were making this money to get off the dollar standard, to get some money that's like, you know, that cannot be debased, and, you know, rules without rulers. And, you know, also like seeing his passion and like getting like worked up on that stage and like getting teared up, you know, that really like, even, you know, it still gives me chills if I go back and watch it. Like that was a really big moment.
I'm like super jealous of you here, man. I wasn't there. I know Sean was there. But
I wasn't there. I'm just talking about, I saw it on YouTube. No, I wasn't there.
Oh, I thought you were actually there in Miami.
No.
Oh, okay. This guy was at the Miami conference watching Jack Mahler's. He's been retweeted and tagged by Sailor. What the fuck?
No.
That was his 2021 talk you're talking about, right? Or is 2020? What 2021 or
2021? Yeah, that like June, July, or whatever.
So that's like right when you first started learning about Bitcoin.
It was like kind of like up into that March, like I'm like, because that first top, you know, that 64K was like, well, like March, April, and that's when I started kind of getting into crypto. But like that moment around like, you know, when that happened in like May, and then like by June or July, I'd cashed out all my you know, altcoins and all that stuff, and went straight Bitcoin. Yeah, because it's just something that's interests me forever. Like I've known the MSN, you know, the media they're all liars, and it's just like I've always been a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, you know, and now you see conspiracy theorists nowadays, and they're like mostly correct in a lot of ways. And So once I realized what the mission for Bitcoin was, it was an easy switch for me to like just switch over, because it's just like the way I've like explained it to myself is just like I speak this language really well because it's just something I've always been obsessed with.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists are the new fact checkers. So
right.
Yeah. Whereas XRP wants to literally just appease the the current status quo, right? By saying we're going to build a ledger, we're going to do collaborations with all these Federal Reserves and central banks all across the world, and they're going to choose our, you know,
yeah, like even Ethereum, right? Like there's these guys that have a podcast called Bankless, but their hope,
right.
their hope at best, any crypto's hope is to be cut by the banks and by the central banks. That is their number one hope, right? That
they want to be the CBDC.
Exactly. It doesn't get any higher than that. That doesn't get it to separation of state and money. It gets to, we are cucked by the system. That is their goal.
We want to get in bed with them is what they want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
maybe just to get back to that first question though, because I think it's really awesome. And you mentioned it earlier on the show as well. It's like, you said you didn't realize like why so many people were so emotional about that speech, you know, but I mean, it came a lot sooner, you know, a nation state saying that they were going to make it legal tender in that year already. I mean, in 2017, I don't think there were like any major companies. We were constantly betting on like, when is Apple or Samsung going to put it, or Facebook on their balance sheet? And then they came out with like Libra going like this whole other way, you know? And then, I mean, in 2019, it was Michael Saylor, who was like the first company who really, oh, no. I'm sorry. It was Tahini's, right?
Yeah. So I was gonna say,
yeah, you're right. That was 2020. You're
August
right. You're right.
2020, after COVID.
You're right.
That came after.
I got my years mixed up. So 2020, it was like all of a sudden the years of like all these companies putting it on their balance sheets, you know? And the joke was from before that, from what I remember coming in 2017, I think it was Dan Held as well. Yeah, he made this graph of like all this, you know, this basically this route towards global mass adoption and going to a Bitcoin standard, right? First, it's going to be like this collectible or like this nerd or theoretical experiment, and it's collectible. Then it's going to become like retail and stuff's going to buy it. Then like companies are going to get into it. And then at some certain stage, you know, pension funds, and then maybe a country. And all of a sudden, Bukele with that speech, along with Jack Mallers, you know, he pulled that forward to where people were thinking this is at least still like 8 years out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it was a big deal. And now we're all used to it, you know, and we're already like,
for real.
Yeah. All right. I'll hold it
there. Okay. So question number 2 out of the final questions. How do you see hyper Bitcoinization playing out?
Man, that's I mean, I'm still like a novice. Like I've read like, you know, the Bitcoin Standard and, you know, VJ and a couple of other ones, the Sovereign Individual. Man, I don't know if I know how to answer that one. I think it's going to be greater and more and bigger than anything that anyone can really think of. You know, the reason why, you know, gas used to be 10 cents a gallon is because you were paying for it with 10 cents of gold. It was just like money back, you know, paper gold, basically.
Yeah.
To get back to something like that, but on an even larger scale, where if I want to, you know, for everyone on this planet, if you have access to the internet, more or less, it's man, that's the best way I know how to answer it. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna take a little bit longer than, you know, what we would all like to think, because, you know, the world moves slow. I mean, like God's time is perfect, and to try to like, you know, guess his, you know, motives, you know, I am a spiritual person, not his motives, but to try to guess his clock is just, you know, not something I'm really concerned with. I just know it's going to get there. I just hope I'm alive to see it for real.
What do you understand when you hear hyper Bitcoinizations? What do you see, or what do you feel, or what do you like? What is your impression of hyper Bitcoinization? Because I've noticed a lot of people have, you know, mostly similar ideas around it, but some are different than others.
I mean, obviously the number's going to go up for the exchange rate, but then you know, it's something I still have to wrap my head around. Like, we're going to be paying for it in sats, but like the sats, we're going to have to drop the dollar relativity to that value, you know, because that's how I see everything. My TV's $400. It's not 400 sats. So that's going to take, you know, that's going to require me. I know I can only speak for me to like rearrange how I look at things, I guess, in a similar manner. But, you know, I'm excited for it. If you ask me what I feel about it, yeah, I want to see it. I want to feel it. But it's like how we get there, other than, you know, the game theory and, you know, stuff getting played out like that. You know, I'm waiting for the banks to suicide themselves, which they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Hats off to them. Standing ovation. Keep going.
Central bank, they're experts at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, you know, hanging from a noose right now. And you know, there's a lot of troubled water, I feel like, but you know, I'm not gonna live in fear about it. You know, the other side of it's gonna be great. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, great. Last question, and then we'll let you loose. What do you see as the biggest threat to Bitcoin? Now that you're all orange pilled, we've all talked about the game theory, the hyper Bitcoinization is going to happen. TV is going to be priced in sats. Okay, well, what's a threat? How could this not happen, right? Is there a threat?
It's like, because my sisters ask me this kind of questions too, and I think like the only things that can like kill Bitcoin are like civilization level events. You know what I mean? Like if you wipe out power to the whole world. Well, at that point, we got a lot bigger problems than not having magic internet money. You know what I mean? Stuff on that kind of scale, sure, you know, comet coming from the sky, or, you know, but like, I mean, the more I look into it, it's just like, where is the single point of failure? It's really, you know, it's not going to be mean Maxis on Twitter turning people off to it. You know what I mean? It's not going to be,
Good point.
you know, it's not going to be the other country kicking out all their miners. That's not going to do it. Really, it's like, you know, what killed the dinosaurs? That's what's going to kill Bitcoin.
It's a freaking civilization. Something that ends human civilization is the biggest threat to Bitcoin.
Or at least takes us back to the Stone Age, you know, where we're like, well, if you don't have electricity, but at that point, like, do we really? We got a lot bigger problems, you know.
Yeah, then you need you need products and services first before you can add money to an economy.
Right.
What do you think, Sean? I mean, you haven't answered it yet. I haven't heard you answer that question yet. Oh, man, sorry about that, Rope.
I'm not the one answering the questions.
I'm asking He's got a point. He's got a point.
What do I? Let me.
I mean, it's the first. Okay, it's the first time where we've asked these questions. So I mean, I'd like to hear your answer.
Okay, I'm going to answer it, but a little bit differently. I think that there is a challenge to Bitcoin, and that is the CBDC. I think Bitcoin's biggest challenge that it will face is the CBDC. I think Bitcoin and the CBDC are going to go head to head in like the final boss of final bosses. And it'll be maybe some type of global CBDC. Maybe it'll be like an Ethereum CBDC, but there will be something that it'll be slave money, you know, surveillance money, all the things that you don't want in a money, permissioned money, which is the CBDC, versus this freedom money, which gives humanity freedom back into our hands without surveillance. And I think that is the biggest challenge. And that's going to be the last straws that this current system, the powers that be, that they're going to have, and they're going to see that that's going to be their biggest fight against Bitcoin. If they can win over the minds of the people to root for the same thing that will enslave them, which will be the CBDC. So I think that our biggest challenge is, how do we get, right? If that's what I think is going to be the biggest challenge of Bitcoin, then I think, okay, what is my mission? And it is to get as much education out now before that battle, before that fight really takes place. So there's more people and more smart people and dedicated people and that will know what Bitcoin really is, and that have Bitcoin in their hands, and that will root for freedom instead of for captivity. So that's what I think.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry.
The thing is, right? No, the way you're presenting, what I'm thinking there is like, okay, you're saying, okay, what would you rather have, slave coin or liberty coin, right?
Yeah.
Then the answer seems pretty clear cut, right? People are going to want liberty coin. So the CBDCs, they're going to have to like enforce this on all sides, right? They're going to have to eliminate cash. They're going to be able to see that you're buying Bitcoin, and they'll say, okay, you're not allowed to use a CBDC to transfer that into Bitcoin, right? So we're going to cut, and you're not allowed to go back into it. What I think they're going to try to do is literally something in that direction, where they're going to say, if you're asking me what's the biggest threat to Bitcoin, I think it is like this globally WEF-like coordinated G20, whatever, where all those countries are going to say, look, guys, this is really bad for the environment, or whatever excuse they're going to stick on it, right? That's why we're going to have to make it illegal, just like drugs or whatever. And anybody touching it is, can be arrested, can be put into jail, all that kind of stuff. And then they're just going to force people not to use it. It won't kill Bitcoin, because I'll hold at least some of my keys somewhere, and hopefully nobody knows I have them and I won't get put into jail or whatever. But it's not going to kill Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to stay there, but it can definitely suppress Bitcoin for like who knows. Just like you said, you can't put, we don't know what's God's clock. Right? I think those were your words.
Yeah, I think
ultimately, how long can you hold something down which is intrinsically not bad, right? I mean, you can I would argue that's intrinsically good and fair. So yeah,
and it's true, like it's mathematically true. It has integrity. And the thing is, this WEF, whatever global thing that it is, they'll have a weapon, and their weapon will be the CBDC, right? That is the weapon of choice.
Yeah, but what is the weapon in that case, Sean? Like, how will they kill Bitcoin? I mean, you can have a CBDC and Bitcoin can still flourish, just like you have dollars now. Then a CBDC is just some electronic form of, the dollar is already electronic, right? Now it's just on a blockchain or on a big node or whatever,
think about how
central bank money instead of.
Think about how freedom was vilified during 2020 and 2021, right? Like,
that's my point, was like, if
versus
most
freedom.
people are going to want the CBDC, because in order to understand Bitcoin, you have to literally change your worldview. A lot of these people do. Like, my worldview's always been kind of like this, like they shouldn't have control over the money.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't. It's going to make them so uncomfortable. It's like the Matrix quote. Some people are so hopelessly dependent on the Matrix, they will fight and die to protect it. And that's a lot of people in this world, that it's going to make them so uncomfortable. Like, why would these people are our friends? They don't want to enslave. They're just trying to make everything better.
They work for us.
Right. I didn't vote for them, but they're my friends.
Yeah. They think that the government's there to protect them.
But don't you think that like the switch to the CBDC will put that discussion even more into like the mainstream?
I would hope so.
Why are we going to a CBDC? And how does that compare to Bitcoin?
Maybe you'll be forbidden to ask. Maybe if you ask those questions, you'll be looked at as a conspiracy theorist, right? That's exactly how it played out in 2020 and 2021. If you asked any questions, you were labeled a conspiracy theorist, a science denier. And so, like, I think that's the left's goal, is how do they position Bitcoin into a place where they can use their weapon of choice, which would be the CBDC, and how do they make it so people will willingly want their own captivity over their own freedom? Like, that's the goal, and that's a lofty narrative. But knowing that people don't understand, knowing that people don't actively try to understand finance, it's not out of the question, because there's not people that are actively searching, why is inflation going up? Is there a solution to all of this? So that's why I think it's up to us to keep spreading, as Opti would call it, the sound money gospel, whatever you want to call it, right? Just education, right? Spread the education of what is true and what's not true.
Yeah, and at the same time, Bitcoin has that number go up technology built in just by its scarcity, right? So a central bank digital currency will always have to be expanding like it's doing now, which means that Bitcoin relatively will go up in their in their unit of account. So people will always look at it like as if it's Apple stock. Oh, I wish I bought Apple or Amazon back in the 90s or whatever, you know, because this thing just keeps going up and up and up. So yeah, unless they really like outright ban it, that you're not allowed to interact with it, I think people will get drawn into it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Rope, man. This has been a great discussion, bro. And Marcus as well. I've really enjoyed this time. Give everyone a handoff of where they can find you. Are you working on anything? Got anything going on at all? Or, you know, just let us know where we can find you.
Twitter.
And what's your next meme going
to be? Twitter's at Ropium, ROPIEUM. That's how I spell it. I don't even remember. I do a Friday appearance on our buddy show, the Fug Cumber Show. We do that on Spaces. I make a Friday appearance.
Cool.
Other than that, I think I'm doing a pod with What Bitcoin Did with Jay on the 24th coming up. He reached out to me.
With Peter McCormick?
No, not What Bitcoin Did. What the hell am I thinking? Why Bitcoin with Bitcoin Jay. I think this was called. I'm sorry. And yeah, just find me on Twitter. I'll be on there posting memes, shit posting, making inappropriate jokes.
That's the best way, man. That's how we keep that. You need to have a balance of like signal and noise, just to throw the wrong people off and get the right people in. You know, crucial. Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Appreciate you having me on. Glad to do it.
Thank you. And for everyone listening in, remember this Thursday, we got the Meme Factory podcast, 7:30 p.m. live Eastern time. Don't miss out. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. If you learned something, you thought this was fun, you loved it, let your friends know that Bitcoiner's Guide is around. And as for Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 33 from Rope, Plan Marcus, and Big Sean, we're over now. Peace.